Welcome, everybody. We are Spitball Media, and we are live. We're spitting out the top entertainment stories of the week. My name is John Draper. Joining me, of course, is the king of the Midwest, Mr. Bisho O'Brien. Bisho O'Brien, happy weekly Spitball Media.
Happy spit session. Geez, I can't fucking
Oh,
talk.
my
What a
God.
great way, ladies and gentlemen, to start a fucking podcast.
A live
your words.
stream.
Oof.
Bisho, you all right? You need some water?
I'm all right. I've been
Well, you
sneezing
look
for like 5 minutes. I was waiting for you to come on. I, for some reason, started a sneezing fit and it threw me off.
very hunterish. I like it. You look like you've just been hunting a little bit. Hunting with leisure. I like the cap. I like the whole motif.
Oh, I forgot I had the cap on. I wore it out to my kid's Christmas pageant today.
Yes, this is probably the time of year for that. But welcome, everybody. Shaheen is off tonight. He might be joining us for the bonus Patreon weekly show, but he sends his regards. But we are a Spitball Media podcast. Thanks for checking us out if you've joined us for the first time. If you want, you want to give yourself a little gift, you might want to consider signing up for the old Patreon. That's Spitball Media patreon.com/Spitball Media. Is that correct, Bisho O'Brien?
Yes, absolutely, it is. And there's hours and hours and oodles of noodles of content there. I mean, well, we've been doing this like 3 years now, 3.5 years.
Yeah. And you have everything from the previous catalog for Break the Apocalypse, bonus shows, you get exclusive content, theme shows, solo shows. I mean, Bisho, this is a gift that you really need to give yourself all year round.
Absolutely, especially this month because we're going to try to throw a bonus show or two in there. In addition to what we would normally do, we're not doing a Q&A this month again, but we're going to try to do something holiday flavored. So,
Yes,
patreon.com/Spitball Media.
Yeah, and it's just $5, Bisho. This is the cheapest gift you can give, even to yourself.
Yeah, it's hard to find even stocking stuffers for under
No.
$5 now.
I know. My stocking stuffer's like $20, for the kids. It's fucking shit. It's not work. It's terrible. And of course, thank you to the many Patreon members who consistently have kept the lights on in this place. You'll be getting a special bonus show this week, won't they, Bisho?
Absolutely. I'm going to try to kick one out, and then we're going to try to do a holiday-themed one right before Christmas. So
yeah, sometime between Christmas. Yeah, right before Christmas, and all of us will be on for that. And thank you very much to everybody hanging out in the chat. We've got Gary Thorpe, a good buddy of mine there. Slave Cheeks, Chris Matthews, Joe Punches, Eric Turner is in there. Who else is in there, Bisho? Am I missing anybody?
Let's see. We went on a couple minutes early, so I don't know.
Yeah, we did. We went on a little
Joe
early.
Punches, did you say?
Yeah, I did. Okay, yeah. Mr. Punches is in there. Yeah. And Chris Matthews, of course. How's everybody doing tonight? Slave Cheeks, my objective is to make Bisho giggle silently as well as Drapes. All depends on the topics. What's up, Chuck? What's up? So, people, first and foremost, just a couple things, a little housekeeping. Again, Shah is not here tonight. I don't think he's going to make the regular show, but he might be on the Patreon. And of course, go to patreon.com/Spitball Media, $5. And thank you to everybody for, for such a wonderful, wonderful year we've been having here. But just a couple of housekeeping things. We'll have the regular live shows for the next couple of weeks for the rest of the year. We'll have the 2 bonus shows. But we want to get this out of the way right now, a little prequel. Next week, people, it's the big one. It's probably our most popular show of the year, Bisho, every year, the big one, isn't it?
Yeah, the one. I mean, we talk a lot about movies on here, not just horror movies, but regular movies. And between the three of us, we watch quite a bit. So we're going to try to wrap up like what our favorite movies were of the year, what we think were the best ones. Yeah. And we're going to go from there. And by the way, throw yours in the chat too, because we want to talk about what you guys liked. Because, sometimes we have similar tastes and we end up picking the same movies for the top 3 or 4. So we like to hear what you guys were enjoying.
Yeah, we will definitely be counting down our 3 individual top 5 horror films of 2023. I think it's going to be an interesting list. It's an evolving list. And we're also going to try to do our top non-horror films, Bisho. The non-horror films for me is quite easy, but I know for you and Shah, it takes a little bit more thought process.
A little bit, because more goes into it. Like, you guys were surprised that I liked Pearl more than X, but Pearl I liked just because of the cinematography, the style, stuff like that. So, yeah, it's always an odd mix of favorites between us. And, yeah, I'm ready for it, man. I'm excited. It was a good year.
Yeah, it was actually, when you look at the year, when you sit down and look at it, the year in entertainment, it was a specific year because of the strike, obviously. That's unavoidable. But it was an interesting year. A lot of people felt like this year, actually, in horror in particular, fell off compared to 2022. We'll get into that in detail next week. I know that's a lot of people's opinions. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. But honestly, my list has evolved for both my regular, non-horror films for my top 5 and my top 5 horror films. Mine has changed. I don't know about you, but mine literally has changed like recently because of some of the movies I've checked out.
Most of the movies I watched were horror centric. I watched a couple comedies, so I got to go. Like I got to go back. I forget. I got to go back through and look at all the stuff I watched. Because that's what usually happens. Is as I go, I'm like, oh, that's probably my new top one.
Mm,
Oh, that's probably my top one. And then I go back and look at the list and go, holy shit.
yeah.
There's a lot of contenders in there. So
Yeah, there really is. And this is a big Oscar year. It looks like, unlike certain previous years, this seems to be a blockbuster type year. There's a lot of early contenders, and also currently now there's like Critics Desk Award. There's like the ancillary, basically the like the Blockbuster Video Awards are going on right now. Big show, like it's like these ancillary, and they're not like shitty awards, but they're not like New York Film Awards, like not the Critics' Choice. That's not coming up yet, but this is it. So this is the big push for Oscar season. And of course, other, whether it's magazines, websites, people, podcasters are all putting out their top lists. So it's going to be interesting to see where we land next week. We're also, we should also point out, we're going to talk about shit, that maybe just missed the mark for the top 5, but things that really we did not enjoy, right?
yeah, I think we do a really good job of going over that. Because there's a lot of movies I've even seen too where like some of the horror groups on Facebook that I belong to, they'll be pushing a movie really good. Oh, this is the greatest movie of all year. And then I watch it and it's like, there's like 6 other movies that blew that out of the water. And that's why, you mentioned the other awards, the more ancillary ones. I like those too, because I don't know if it's access. I don't know if it's momentum or the joining the crowd, but there's a lot of places that tend to talk about the same movies.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get into the other ones, like the more ancillary awards, as you mentioned, those people just like watching movies. So it's cool to see what other ones are out there to suggest to check out.
Yeah, like Independent Spirit Awards, I'm a big fan of. That's a great award show if people aren't familiar with it. It used to be, I guess, called like the Sundance. Well, they have Sundance, of course, but it was like on the Sundance channel or the IFC channel. The Independent Spirit Awards are great. They're very low key. There's usually some bangers in there. And also what I find B show is like, especially like with the independent stuff, that's where I find movies otherwise that I never would have heard of. And that's why I get excited. I go, I never heard of that. Who is that? Let me look into that.
That's what I was getting to is, if you follow, like even, I hate to say it, but even like the Chainsaw Awards and stuff like that.
Exactly.
It's like sometimes you tend to in other lists, they show like the big ones or, Scream 6 was the greatest movie this year. It's like, no. Not to give some stuff away, but I watched Infinity Pool a couple weeks ago, and that movie was fucking great. So
it's insane, right? It's a fucking insane asylum of a movie. I mean, it's just it's like a Quentin Tarantino made a horror movie kind of movie, right? Like it has a Tarantino vibe. I felt like, but also that can never be like a mainstream film. So a lot of the stuff, look, I don't think we'll have a lot of the obvious choices on there, but I don't know. We never discuss our choices beforehand. All three of it, never, ever, 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 regardless of an overlap, regardless if we all three of us could have the same 5 movies, we wouldn't know until we went live on the air. But I felt like the horror one, to me, honestly, I felt like it was very clear cut for me. I don't know about you. Did you struggle with some of like limiting down the 5? Like last year was a struggle. We were all struggling last year.
Yeah, I still got to put it together. Like I said, I got to go back and see everything that I watched because I tend to have like the most recent ones that I liked in my memory. And then I'll go back and look at the list and say, oh, holy shit, I saw that one too. I think I have a pretty solid set, probably top 2 or 3. I just have to go back and look at the other ones.
Yeah, and it's a long fucking year, dude. I mean, you start the year out with movies like Megan and then like into Scream, and like that seems like 100 movies ago to me, honestly. Like it seems like even Saw, which came out late summer, seems like 100 movies. I've seen like 20 movies since Saw, like maybe 30 movies since Saw. Plus not to mention the stuff that showed up on Shudder and stuff that went direct to video, that kind of thing. So it's gonna be fun. I always feel like that's a show that we get the most kind of interest in, and people will let us know. Obviously, we want you guys to let us know. There's a big talk going about Dua Lipa going on there. I don't know. And Malum, Malum is a movie I think we've all heard of, but none of us have seen. Malum, that's supposed to be, I think, the prequel to the Last Shift, or the prequel. Yeah, I would like to check that out. But people like Uncle Creepy and I think our buddy Sam Hoyos, they've already got their list out. I don't know what Necromaniacs podcast is doing theirs. I have to check with my brother. That's one I always get into because those guys I found since like I can't tell you how many years, Necromaniacs, I listen to that and the other Mike and Jeff will pick 2 or 3 movies that I've never heard of in my life and then I jump on the internet and look them up. I'm serious. Like I found so many movies like that from them. Like In the Earth, I think was one of them. Sputnik, the Russian one. Did you ever see the Russian aliens movie? Sputnik?
Oh wow, no.
They both had it on their list like 3 years ago, and I was like, "Where's Sputnik? I got to look that movie up."
Oh my god!
If people never heard of it, if you have, check it out. Check out the trailer if you can. Sputnik. It is really solid alien horror movie from Russia, from about 3 or 4 years ago. Really solid. I mean, it's a little bit of a drag, but then once it gets cooking, you're like it'll suck you in really, and it's well made. So that's what I'm saying. I like to hear other people's lists, and I don't feel like any of them are wrong. But I thought this year, actually, to be honest with you, and we'll talk more about it next week when Shah's here, B. But I thought this year was not as good as last year, but I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people are kind of playing it up. I think last year was special because of our Terrifiers and our Smiles and our Barbarians and our Pearls. That's great, and it's all of that's fantastic. But this year I feel like this year, without talking about particular films, B, how much off the mark do you think 2023 was versus 2022? Way off the mark as far as quality. I think quantity was pretty. You had a lot of big franchises putting out films this year.
Yeah, and I think last year you had a lot more clear cut, like, okay, that's top 5, that's top 5, that's top 5. Like you just said, Barbarian and the other ones. This year, I think it really comes down to your taste because there were some movies that were like hard, like, holy shit, that's brutal. It'll definitely make the top 5. But if you're not into those movies and you like something that's a little bit more tame, but still has a good story or is a fun watch, there's stuff there too. And then as we talked about last week, I don't know if it's going to make my top 5, probably not. But like Five Nights at Freddy's is like the biggest Blumhouse movie of all time.
It's the biggest horror film of the year as far as box office, no question.
Yeah. So like in that sense, like it's all over the gamut, and there was so much stuff that went out. I just don't think there was. I don't think there was as many that will be a clear cut. The most of the horror audience is going to agree on these 3 or 5 movies. I think it's going to be pretty spread out. So
you're absolutely right, because we also had some of these sleeper weird direct-to-video movies late summer into Halloween. Again, I don't want to name the titles because I feel like we're going to talk about them next week. So like, where it's like, where did this come from? Where did this come from? That kind of thing. But again, major franchises did big numbers this year. The Blumhouse, obviously we're talking about the Insidious that came out this year was enormous.
The Red Door, Nun, I think it was.
The Nun 2, tremendous box office. Five Nights at Freddy's, tremendous box office. Now, these movies these will be on people's lists for sure. They probably won't be on any of ours, maybe. But these were box office wise. We should probably take a look also at box office in the genre to see how much off the mark our picks were versus the audience picks were. By the way, Chris Matthews is saying he saw Sputnik. It is on Hulu and it's good. It's very good. I definitely recommend that movie. But that's just a type of film that had I not heard it on the list of Necromaniacs, I would never have heard of this film. I don't know that I would have discovered it independently. And also, B-Show, if I remember correctly, last year, right after Christmas, you and I think maybe Shah didn't see it yet, we discovered Christmas Bloody Christmas, like after Christmas, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And then we were like, holy shit, like this might have been on my list. Like,
which one was that?
That's the animatronic, the Terminator.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What a little, like, that was a fucking real surprise. Like for people that haven't seen it, if you have access to Shudder or if you can get the free trial, which I recommend you do, Christmas Bloody Christmas is fucking great. It's a great indie fucking horror movie. That didn't make my list, but I might have, like, if I saw that in like October, I might have been like, fuck, I enjoyed that movie so much. So it's like, it's nice to have this gambit of these things. And we'll talk, and like Gary Thorpe is bringing up Skinamarink.
I forgot that was this year. Holy shit.
That was this year. By the way, that's on a lot of people's lists. Again, it might not be on our lists, but that was a highly sort of, media savvy movie that cost nothing, that everyone was talking about in what, late winter, early spring. I think that was B. You
Had
know,
to have been. Yeah, I thought it was 22, but wow, 23.
no, it was this year. Gary Thorpe is mentioning it. And
Hmm.
shout out to Gary. And of course, Marquise
Yeah.
is joining us. My good friend Marquise John's there. So yeah, like Skinamarink, will it be on the list? Will Saw be on the list? I don't know. We never compare our picks ever. Like, right, Bisho, let's be very clear. There's no colluding when we do these things.
No, obviously we talk offline like about what movies we're watching and hey, you need to check this stuff out, but it's never like, oh, hey, this is my top 5 before we go on. And I like doing that too because one thing I've noticed about podcasts in general, I'm not going to soapbox, I'll be quick,
Mhm.
but I see a lot of podcasts where shit seems set up and inauthentic,
Yeah.
and it doesn't come off like natural. And I think you can see when we talk about things like we talked about movie soundtracks a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Excuse me. And you threw one out, and I was like, "You son of a bitch! You stole my number 3."
Oh,
And it's
that's
like
right. Yeah.
that's that type of like I don't know. I like that better, not
That has,
knowing and being
yeah, that
surprised.
does happen sometimes. I think last year me or Shah or me or you both had a number 2 pick at the exact same time.
Mhm.
Like, and it was either 2 or 3. It's like, yeah, that's my number 2. Like, you know what I mean? And that happens, but that's the fun of it. And again, please, if you guys want to get your picks ready for next week, we'll read everybody's picks on the air for the show. If who's ever in the chat, or if you don't want to be in the chat, if you can't be in the chat, send them in. We'll read them. We have no problem doing that once we reveal our picks. But I'm excited. That's always a fun show, and it's always a good way to get good feedback from people. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about what's probably the most talked about movie of the week, easily. I'm just blown away by the response to this. We talked about it last week. I'm talking about Godzilla Minus One. Last week at this time, none of us had seen it. I have seen it. I went and saw it Saturday, and I immediately let these guys know, like maybe 5 minutes out of the theater, what my thoughts were about this. But for those of you that aren't familiar with it, it is the what they're considering a low budget Godzilla movie, because the Godzillas we make in this country are like $180 million films. This is a $15 million reboot sort of Godzilla. It is not a practical effects movie. It has nothing to do with the Shin Godzilla that came out a few years ago. It is not a Godzilla in a rubber costume. It is special effects. There are no practical effects in this film. None. And it is a certified blockbuster, B, isn't it?
Yeah, have you seen the numbers yet?
I haven't checked the numbers lately. Where are we at now?
Oh
Oh my
so as far as Rotten
God.
Tomatoes, 90% tomato meter for the critic reviews and 98% audience score.
97 and 98. That's almost
Have you seen
identical.
that in the past 5 years where it's been
No.
such a unanimous wow.
Can we check box office? I know it's making
Yeah.
great money because they've just, it was supposed to leave theaters this week. It is not. It is being held over across the country for another week because it is making bank. It is absolutely making bank, B-Show. It is, I mean, I can't even tell you how good. Well, we'll get to it in a minute because I've seen it, but I just want to know what, and that's a $15 million budget. It made $23 million overseas before it came here. Where are we at domestically?
That's what I'm looking for. I saw an article that said that it broke a record.
It did break some kind of record, I think, this week.
Close to 35 million globally.
Globally, okay.
Which isn't that far off from what it was last week. When we checked last week, it was like 24 million before it hit the US.
It was 23, I think, before it came here.
Let me dig a
So, and
little
it's
bit.
probably going to have a big weekend because it's getting, every publication, website, it's enormous. Where are we at? Oh, shit. Look at the
Let's
worldwide
see.
gross.
42 million, 42,351.
Wow.
On what, a $10
Wow.
million budget? That's not bad.
Jesus Christ. I think they have adjusted the budget to 15. I think the budget's somewhere around 15.
Okay.
Yeah, this is fantastic. It's in a lot of theaters. Now, B-Show, it's only been out in our country 6 days, and look at that box office.
And like you said, if they're extending the box office or doing
They
more
are.
theaters, then hopefully it improves and word of mouth spreads. I wonder how much effect this is going to have on it. When we posted about this last week, Mish from Wrestling Soup posted that like he wants nothing to do, like he's gun shy because of all of the new Godzilla
The
movies
US,
coming
the
out.
reboots, right? Yeah.
I wonder if a lot of people feel that way, where they're just like, because they were turned off by Godzilla versus Kong and stuff like that. And this is
Well, those
nothing
movies
like
did
that.
well.
So
Well, to be frank, those movies did well. They're box office winners. All those films. They
true.
might not be as big with audiences, but they're well received. I go back and forth with them. Sometimes I dig them, sometimes I don't. I'm kind of like a Godzilla apologist in a lot of ways. So, except for the one from like the Independence Day one guys they've made, he looked terrible. That was
Oh,
just
with Matthew Broderick.
what a piece of
Oh.
shit that was. What a dog shit, awful embarrassment that was. And they promoted the piss out of that in New York because it was all based in the city. Like they took ads out that said his tail is 3 train cars long, and they would have it on 3 train cars,
Oh my
like on the
God.
subway. Yeah, it was wild billboards in Times Square and shit. This is look, I'm just gonna be frank with you. Godzilla Minus One is a phenomenal theatrical experience. I went into this with high hopes, and my movie theater was crowded. And people loved it. People reacted to it. This is so different than you think it is. Like, I'm just telling people who haven't seen it yet. Whatever preconceived notions you have about what it is, check it at the door. This is a war movie. This is like a character study movie. This is like a fucking it was like a well thought out war picture. I'm dead. Like it's character driven. It's emotionally driven. Godzilla looks fantastic. Like everything is purposeful. They took all the old Tomo music and put it into the fucking movie, which I wasn't aware of until I saw it. Godzilla looks amazing. This might be the best looking Godzilla of all time. It plays it heavy. Like it's not what you think it is. It is like a heavy, almost like I want to say it's an anti-war movie. It's almost like an anti-government movie. Like I'm telling you, man, like it's an experience. Like it is such a fucking rewarding. I know I'm like sound like an asshole, but it's like it is such a rewarding theatrical experience, man. Like I'm trying to think of when this was like going to see like Endgame, like for the first time or something. Like it was like, oh my God, it's emotional. It has everything, dude. It has everything. You want good story? It's got it. You want things to look good? The special effects? Yeah, we got that. You want the acting to be like really good? Yeah, everybody's great. Do you want a good backstory and it's easy to follow? Yeah. Yeah. You like the music from the original? Yeah. You like Godzilla, like, basically just wrecking shit? Like without like dude, it has all of these themes to it. I'm not even joking. And Joe Puncha says it's a movie you really need to see in theaters. And of course, Marquise is saying Godzilla 2000 was awful. It was awful. It's a theatrical experience. And this director, he made some great choices. One of the things I loved about this movie was like, you're seeing a Godzilla movie in like like the end of World War II Japan. And it feels, I hate to say it, but it feels real. Like it feels like there's a logistical thing happening here. And I just felt so strongly about how much I enjoyed this movie. I kind of maybe want to see it again. Like I want to see it in a theater one more time. I'm dead serious. And look, Chris Matthews is saying, if you take Godzilla out of the equation, just make it about the characters picking up after World War II, post-World War II Japan. It's a great movie. Yeah, it's a great movie. Like take Godzilla out of it. It's still a good movie. Like, I'm just going to set the stage because I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, but it's very obvious what the movie's about. This is the end of World War II. Japan is losing. We've just dropped 2 bombs. When I say we, I mean the United States, not us, not Spitball Media. We didn't kill anybody. And there is a kamikaze pilot who fakes that his plane is not functioning properly and refuses to kill himself. So he's like a disgraced kamikaze pilot. And he lands on a remote island to get mechanical things to look at his plane so he can be a kamikaze bomber. And while he's there, a smaller, watered-down Godzilla is already known to be in the area. And that's all I'm going to say. And then we get Godzilla in the first 5 minutes, B-Show. We get a first 5 minutes, and you don't really know how this is going to play out. But one of the more fascinating things to me about this movie is that the United States, look, and we're not going to have a whole conversation here about our involvement in World War II. but we fucking leveled that country. I mean, this is a fact of life. We dropped two atomic bombs on this country, and we killed scores of people. We did. We just did. We did. We did it. That's it. This is history. We're not making this up. But I never really saw like the effects of that in a film before. What happens after it's over? Like, if you really think about, okay, we dropped, like, what happens? What happens to all the people that go back to these villages, and 90% of the people are dead or poisoned from radiation, which is all real, but this all real happened. Like the poverty. We basically told their military, you have to turn in all of your weapons as a condition of the surrender. So now they have all these fighters and all these submarines with no weapons on them, because we forbade them to have weapons. We did. Like, it's just all of these things, and it's like, well, what do you do when you go home? Where do you work? How do you eat? What happens to the children whose parents were killed? What happens to the homeless? Like how do you live? Like, you know, and then there's an industry of people, because we dumped 60,000 mines in their ocean.
God.
Which we probably did. And now we left them there. So what happens to the mines? So now they're responsible to get our mines and their own mines out of the ocean.
And then with all this going on, giant sea creature that we created.
Yeah, that's a giant sea creature poisoned by radiation from the bombs we dropped. Oopsie. But I'm saying, like, you just think about this shit. It's incredible, man. Like,
I like Joseph Marr's point.
So yeah, Joe, I felt like I was watching the sequel to Oppenheimer. I'm not even making this up. I saw Nerdist drop that today, and I was like, this could have been. They should have shown this with Oppenheimer, honestly,
instead of Barbie. Yeah.
Well, when you see the real devastation that had shit to do with Godzilla, because it doesn't happen yet, from the bombs we dropped on the civilians, because we dropped bombs on civilians. I mean, this is just war, you know. So
that would have been a great marketing campaign for Godzilla Minus One, whether it was attached to Oppenheimer or not. Is like, ride the back of Oppenheimer and say, okay, you saw Oppenheimer, now see what happened afterward. Godzilla Minus One.
Yeah. And by the way, when Godzilla shows up to the mainland, oh my God, dude. Now listen, I'm not shitting on the movie, clearly, but I'm gonna say this. There are certain parts in the film which look a little not real. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm just gonna leave it to other people to figure that out. Certain things where you go, that didn't look that great. But then 2 seconds later, like, oh shit! Like, dude, Godzilla hulks up to shoot. He doesn't shoot fire. He shoots atomic fucking breath.
Yeah.
And he hulks up to do it. So you see when he starts hulking up, and you go, yo, I was like, he's gonna fucking kill some motherfuckers. Dude, he kills 30,000 people in one scene. In like one scene. No, dead serious. Awesome.
What channel was it that you shared with Shah and I? The clip that the guy was like, basically, if Godzilla was Jason Voorhees and he just hates everybody. That's pretty much what this movie was. Yeah.
Oh, Big Dirk is there. Yeah, I shaved because of my bed bugs, dude. I had to make sure I didn't have any on my face. But
no, the thing I was sharing was, other than Gary Thorpe saying if Adam Bomb should have been NJPW champion as heel. Yeah. Joseph Marr said this Godzilla movie has a never say never again feel to it. And if you don't know, that's the James Bond movie where they brought in, I think it was Thunderball. They brought in and redid it with
Sean Connery, right? Yeah, with Sean Connery, where they brought him back as an older guy.
Yeah, and it's kind of Thunderball, but it's kind of different, and it's not connected to the story. It was like to get him back for one last movie. So I can kind of see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's incredible. Like and then there's a lot of heart to this too, man. Like, you find yourself like, holy shit. Like, there's only about maybe less than a dozen real involved characters, but you care about every one of them. Like, you care about every one of these fucking people. Like, you care about all of them, and they all have a story to tell, and they tell everyone's story in the movie with Godzilla, with the war, with a fucking great ending, with a great climax, like a great climax. The shit on the ocean looks tremendous. When Godzilla wrecks that one town, oh my God, I was just like, wow. I love that Godzilla just wrecks shit and then leaves. It's the best shit ever. It is like one of the coolest things ever. And I like Godzilla movies where Godzilla is the good guy. Like, I'm like, you know, that's my jam. but he's not a good guy here, B-Show. He kind of kills a lot of people, and you don't need to see a gratuitous violence of it to see the destruction. He steps on people. He throws some people around. He bites into trains. He fucking eats a plane. Like, you know, but when he hulks up, like to the end, like where he's at his super powerfulest, oh my God, man. He looks so, dude, when he's coming out of the ocean with his fins coming out of the ocean. Oh, it's so dope.
That was one of the cool scenes from the trailer we watched where they have like the warship and underneath it, the fins are coming out of the water right by it.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah, there's a thing like where, like, by the way, they have to use wooden boats for the mines. So all their boats are like the fucking SS Minnow. Like, because the mines, because if they were metal, they would attract the mines and kill them. So it's like, what do you think Godzilla's doing with these boats? Like, you know, dude, it's great. And the US is involved in a small way. I'm not going to talk about, like, we're not really the enemy, but we're not really innocent either. It's like, and by the way, it's a fine interpretation. Of course, you'd be upset with the United States. You just destroyed the fucking country. Granted, they started, but, you know, whatever. We finished it. But it's like, yeah, like, you know, the U.S. isn't going to help because, you know, they're too busy. They can't do anything. They can't make any maneuvers right now because they're worried about the Soviet Union. I thought that was a great touch. I was like, it's like, why isn't the United States helping after they ruined our country? It's like, well, they're worried about Russia. So now their focus is on Russia, you know, because they're worried about communism.
See, and I like that because, like, you talk about the realism of it. Like, I like a good, fantastic, this could never happen type of movie. It's a popcorn movie. It's fun.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter that, like, Star Wars. I would imagine Neil deGrasse Tyson would have a heart attack watching it, being like, "There's no fire in space. There's no oxygen." It's like, okay, fine. Like, I can get past that. But some movies like this, like when you see that happen, and it makes you think about the impact of, okay, first there's, you know, dropping the nukes on Japan. Then this giant creature comes out when they're trying to rebuild and trying to just recover. What the fuck would that be like? And then you see the human stories of the families and the military and what do you do? And it puts you in that situation, which to me, when I watch stuff, it's like I want to be able to relate in that way to get into the story sometimes. And yeah, man, I really wish I could have gone and seen it this weekend. I might have to.
If you can, I mean, listen, if you can, go check it out in the theater. It's a great experience. My theater was quite crowded, mostly older people. There was a guy in my row with his young son, and his son was really, like, maybe at 12, 11. He was into it. I don't know. Somebody had asked me if it's good for kids. It's not the violence. I just think it's a lot of yakety yak, you know? So it's like, you know, it's not like Godzilla's in the movie for 2 hours just dropping bodies. You know, Godzilla's in like 4 scenes, but that's the point. If Godzilla was in the whole movie, the movie would be over in 10 minutes because the whole country would be destroyed. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's not really, you know, I love it, dude. I think it's great. It's probably forget about best horror films. It's probably one of the best films of the year. Honestly, I'm dead serious. Like, it transcends like that. And by the way, I could have sworn it was PG. I know it's PG-13, but there were other people that were saying that it was PG. That can't be possible. I just can't be from all the death. But because there's a lot of death, implied death, you know. But boy, let me tell you, one of my favorite scenes, B-Show, is when the dude comes home from the war and finds his village is destroyed. Again, nothing to do with Godzilla, but because of the nuclear bombs that we've just dropped, the atomic weapons that we've just dropped in the country. And it's just, you look from miles and it's like just shackles of nothingness and like people in the streets. And that's all real. Like, that's not a Godzilla thing. That's a World War II thing. And it's like, your parents are dead. My parents are dead. They're dead. These people are dead. This person's got no parents. This person's dead. We're all dead. Everybody's dead. Not to mention all the dead men who never came home from the war. They lost a lot of people in the war itself, you know, so you have that aspect of it. So it's like the country is weak because it lost a global war. And now it's got a big dinosaur that hulks up. So yeah, please go see it if you can. It's fantastic. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it. But on the heels of this B-Show, interestingly enough, they dropped the Godzilla Kong trailer for the post-Godzilla Kong movie, or the monster. I guess the last one was King of Monsters or whatever. In the new
Godzilla versus Kong, and now this is Godzilla X Kong.
No, there was Godzilla, then there was Skull Island, then there was Godzilla versus Kong. And then there was the monster. Was that the monsters one with the other monsters? Because Rodan's in it and Mothra.
King of All Monsters. Yeah,
King of
you're
All
right.
Monsters. I like that one. That's pretty cool. That one's okay. That's my favorite one because I like all the other monsters in it. Although we didn't get Gamera. I want the big turtle. I want Gamera in these movies. So they also dropped the new trailer. What is this? What's it called, Bisho? I'm sorry. What is it?
Godzilla X Kong.
Yeah. Now this, I did a little deep dive on about what this is about. Because it's hard from the trailer. Now, a lot of people are poo-pooing the trailer, Bisho. I know we can't show it on YouTube, but there's a lot of people poo-pooing the trailer primarily because it looks a little goofy. I guess coming off the heels of this other Godzilla. Now, this is probably, if I had to guess, $170 million movie, at least 150. It comes out next year. This Godzilla is the Godzilla and the Kong. This is they're friends again, I guess. I don't know. They're kind of off again, on again, Bisho, Godzilla and Kong.
They're like the honeymooners. They don't like each other, but they're friends.
Yeah, it's more like a Sam and Diane from Cheers. Will they or won't they?
Yeah.
But we get a new villain. It's a giant orangutan called the Scar King. Have you heard about the Scar King, Bisho? We're getting a lot of press on the Scar King.
No, in fact, I was going to watch a trailer today and ended up having to go somewhere. I think it's interesting that they've turned Godzilla purple or pink.
Yeah, he's like my Christmas tree now. Well, he's gender fluid, Godzilla.
Put a chick in it, make it lame.
Make Godzilla pink. No. Now, I don't hate these movies. I think they're okay. They're never as good as I want them to be, but I love this so much. I love that they exist. Like I'm one of these people. And we have Baby Kong. Look at Baby Kong. We got a Baby Kong now.
Oh,
he's pretty cute.
They saw how popular Baby Yoda was, and they're like, Baby Kong, let's do it.
Yeah, Baby Kong looks good. I'm not gonna lie. Baby Kong looks like people gonna be. Baby Kong might be the new Baby Yoda. I don't know.
Maybe.
Now when I say Baby Kong, he's probably like 20 feet tall, but but we're getting what they call the Scar King, who is a giant orangutan. We don't know much about it, but it looks like that's the principal villain is the Scar King. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I saw that I wasn't as piss poor on the trailer as other people were, Bisho, because Godzilla ends up running like side by side with Kong, like to go fight, I guess, the villains. And people thought Godzilla running looked really bad. Like it just didn't look good compared to the other Godzilla, which looked really good. And you definitely didn't see the trailer?
No. Is it supposed to be like Lethal Weapon when fucking Danny Glover and Mel Gibson finally team up after hating each other?
Yeah, and one of them, I think Godzilla says, "I'm getting too old for this shit." So
and then Kong breaks his shoulder and has to.
Yeah, Kong is more the Murtaugh in this. No, Kong is Riggs because he's the wild card.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like Godzilla's like probably a lot older than Kong, I would imagine.
Well, no, in Godzilla versus Kong, I guess Godzilla would have been Riggs because he was the bad guy for a while until they had to team up and beat Mecha Godzilla.
Well, no, but Godzilla was never the bad guy. It was always Mega Godzilla. Well, remember there was something that was it wasn't like he wasn't himself.
Oh yeah.
So I think Kong is more the wild card, like wild card. You know what I mean? Like Charlie from It's Always Sunny. He's a wild card.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know. But I liked Skull Island. Did you ever see any of these movies? I liked Skull Island.
I think Skull Island. What was the one with Jack Black?
No, you're thinking of like King Kong, I think, like the fucking one from the 90s.
No, because there was one where the one where they went to like under Earth and found Kong, and I think Jack
Black's not in that. I think that's like Jack
Okay.
Black, like a low budget. He's not in any of these movies. I forget how many there's been. Skull Island was like there was Sam Jackson's in it. I think Goodman's in it. Brie Larson's in it. This is where they discover Kong and like prehistoric on like our planet on an island. And then we get Godzilla like in a more dramatic way. I think Gareth Edwards did our Godzilla.
Oh, it was John C. Reilly, not Jack Black.
John C. Reilly is in the Skull Island. It also takes place in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's one I saw. I was thinking Jack Black, but it's John
Jack
C.
Black's
Reilly.
in the Peter Jackson King Kong, which isn't terrible, but it seems very dated now. That's Adrian Brody. Yeah, like it's not terrible. It just seems dated. You know what I mean? I've seen all these movies, right? The King of the Monsters I liked because it had Rodan and it had Mothra in it. you know, even though Mothra got checked the fuck out pretty quick. But it had other cool monsters. And the Ghidra, the 3-headed fucking, that thing's awesome. Love that. And then had Mega Godzilla like out of nowhere. That was a little douchey, the Mega Godzilla turn in that. That was a little pro wrestling. But look at that. I just go, yeah, look at that thing. It looks amazing. The 3-headed
My
dragon.
cousin used to have a Ghidorah toy with the 3 heads. And oh my God, that thing was awesome.
I fucking love it.
The big 80s hunk of plastic like dinosaur toys. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of cool video games. People got to check me on that. I think there's a couple of cool video games, not from the movies, just of the properties. I think there's a Godzilla. I was playing an online one on my phone, but it ate up too much memory. Oh, look at this is the video game ones. Look at this. Doesn't it look cool? King Ghidorah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I like this. I like monster. Like I was thinking about this too, Bisha. I feel like monster movies are my favorite horror genre. Honestly,
really.
I grew up on them. Between the classic ones, the Universal ones, and then, we had even like I remember loving the Abbott and Costello meeting the Wolfman and all that shit. Like these were all things when I was a small boy in the 70s, right? And then on Saturdays on Channel 5, which was Fox, before it was a network, it was just Channel 5, but it was Fox. And Channel 9, and then we had Channel 11, which was, I guess, the WB, and then UPN was 9 locally. You would have 3 different types of marathons. You would have like karate marathons. So I would see like the 5 Deadly Venoms and all that shit, which I loved. You would have the Japanese horror movies. You like where Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, Godzilla versus Monster Zero, Godzilla versus Rodan, not Gamora. That's the fucking mafia movie. The turtle. What the fuck is his name? You know the turtle?
Shit.
Gamera.
There you go.
Gamera, Rodan, Mothra. Godzilla with Jack Jaguar and all that other shit. And then you'd also have like things like we'd have like honey, like they would just have marathons of the shit. They would just be on all day. So Saturdays, you just would get parked in front of a TV, and you would just watch this shit all day. Oh, Galactic Wrestling Federation, shout out. Yeah, WPIX, they had the best movies. They had mostly karate movies, so they had horror movies. So this is what you would do. You just watch these movies all day. So that's my genre. Like I love that genre. I could watch a Godzilla in a rubber suit movie all day. I would find something I liked about it. I like the ones where he's like dancing in it, like where he's like they had the hippie one where the Smog Monster, which is really like an anti-pollution movie. And then of course the Baby Godzilla, Return to Monster Island. What was his name? Baby Godzilla. What the fuck was Baby Godzilla's name?
I've never seen that one. I don't know.
You never seen that one? He's like a little rubber suit. He's cute. He blows smoke rings because he can't blow fire yet. And then Godzilla steps on his tail and he blows fire. And he's like, ah!
Oh, that's funny.
Dude, it's just, it's amazing. And I just love the ones I just love them. I could watch them all day. There was none of there was the lion that helped Godzilla versus Mega Godzilla. Mega Godzilla, the old one was good. He kicked Godzilla's ass.
Yeah, my son and I we watched King Kong and then we watched Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla on Max. And there's this one part where
from the 60s.
Okay.
The
Japanese. So like all these people think Godzilla, for those who haven't seen it, they're confused because Godzilla comes out and he's doing all this shit, I guess, that he wouldn't normally do. Right. And that's when they find out that it's Mechagodzilla with a suit or
which is, by the way, the tenet of the new one, the new version.
Yeah.
That's actually what they do in the new one. Yeah.
So he walks up and there's this like giant critter on the ground, and he walks up and just fucking boots it, and it flies like 30,000 feet up in the air. My son fell off the fucking couch laughing. It was so fucking funny.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Oh no, Godzuki is from the comic book for the cartoon.
Oh, King Caesar?
No, I don't. King Caesar's. That's from the Planet of the Apes, I think. Even from the reboots. But the new God, I don't know when this Godzilla X Kong comes out. It'll probably do well. Of course, I'll check it out. And but a lot of people were poo-pooing it. They said it looked terrible. Like they just thought it looked bad. I didn't think it looked bad. I don't know why people were shitting on it. I think people like, it's funny. We talked about this on the Patreon last week when we talked about the Furiosa trailer, and you and Shaheen were laughing at it because you thought the graphics were so bad.
Yeah.
And I think people are more astute now to the graphics of these things. Like, I feel like you're going to hear about it more. Like that's a thing now. Like if you have shitty graphics, people are going to check the fuck out. You know what I mean? That's what I think anyway.
Yeah, no, I think there's something to that because like we hear how advanced it's getting and they spend all this money, and then you watch, what movie was it? People were complaining about was it She-Hulk they were saying it looked unfinished, or was
Oh
it
yeah,
the
She-Hulk
Ant-Man
was like
movie?
20 million an episode, and it was just didn't look it.
Yeah, it looked terrible, and it was
Yeah, it looked
like
pretty bad.
people were calling her Fiona from fucking Shrek, and it's
Yeah,
like, yeah, no, that's right. When you spend that much money, and I think if it wasn't hyped up as much, people wouldn't be so upset about it. Because
yeah.
the one thing I was going to ask you about Godzilla, what was it? The minus one. Have you seen any promotion for this other than us
No,
passing the trailer around?
no, no nothing.
I
Nothing.
haven't
It's
either.
just it's word of mouth is so strong. But it's being treated so good by magazines and online, and people who podcast and like I haven't seen anyone take a shit on this movie. Like nobody is fucked with this movie. Like,
Mm.
nobody. Nobody's like 10 reasons why Godzilla Minus One is terrible. I haven't seen any of that shit. Matter of fact, Critical Drinker, who always shits on everything, did a Godzilla thing, raving about it for 15 minutes. Just raving about it. Just like, yeah, this is a fantastic movie. Like, I don't know. But the big thing people, I mean, not to spend the whole time on Godzilla Minus One, but the big thing people are saying is, why did this $15 million movie have a better story, better impact on people, better audience score than a $250 million Marvel movie? And I don't know that that's an answerable question. I think because it didn't have to answer to Disney or the MCU, or it didn't pay somebody $30 million to be in it, and it didn't cheap on its effects because it knew it didn't have a budget in the first place. And I think you could tell by the people that are in it are really, really into this, like they're selling it like it's a big deal, and not just writing a paycheck in between their art films that they're making and checking out. And you could tell this was a labor of love. And I feel like MCU movies in particular, other than James Gunn's trilogy, quite frankly, and the Russo brothers for the most part, and maybe the first Black Panther, I don't feel that way anymore about any of these films. I feel like they're made to make money. They're investment properties, B-Show. And I don't think anybody making that Godzilla movie going, I wonder if we're going to be playing in the US around the holidays. Do you think we'll get a good Rotten Tomatoes score? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, do you think I could parlay this into a Coen Brothers movie? Like, it's just, yeah, I mean, I guarantee you, even the people in the movie are relative unknowns. They didn't seem to be like stars, you know, but they're fantastic. That's the thing. I think it every year, B show, like there's that one or two indie film that everybody talks about that most people never heard of. And then you watch it, you go, wow, that was really good. And you get the vibe that everybody in that, like whether it's The Whale or Everything Everywhere All at Once, like it's easy to root for those things, right? Like, because it's like Brandon Fraser last year, it was easy to root for him, right? Because you haven't seen him in so long and his
Mhm.
career was in the toilet and he was fat and it was like kind of a fucked up movie. Like, it wasn't like, some gorgeous actor or actress in a $300 million movie, about a singing cat, talking about the patriarchy. So it's like, I don't know. Like, I think people are so angry all the time now about everything. So they carry that. No, I just do. I just
Yeah.
think that, like, I'll give you an example, right? Like, I didn't know the new Indiana Jones was on Disney Plus. I didn't know it hit. It hit. It's there. And I really want to watch it because that's all three of us, that's a big deal. Like, Indiana Jones is maybe the superhero of our lifetime in a lot of ways, right? Like a real
Mhm.
superhero, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, do I watch it and run the risk of getting like annoyed, or do I never watch it and never really decide for myself if it's what people say it is? And I don't like that latter part. That's why I go see the Marvels. That's why I go see everything and I watch it for myself. I don't want someone to tell me a movie's good or bad. I want someone to tell me that, hey, I went and saw this, so now I'm qualified to speak on it because I saw it. Like, I don't believe this thing where people hate watch. I think no one has that free time. Do you have time to hate watch?
No, I think some streamers and people who do like, look, Nerdrotic. I love Nerdrotic, and I know I've said this before, so
Yeah, I
sorry to
do too,
belabor the
to
point.
certain small doses.
Yeah,
Don't
but
take
it's
my.
like if you watch their shit every week, that's all they do. It's like, this Doctor Who is ruined. This
Oh my god,
franchise
yeah.
is
They hate
over.
everything.
Yes.
They hate everything, B show.
It's like the
That
people in like the 2000s that like you'd watch Monday Night Raw and the whole time, like right afterwards, everyone's on a message board like this show sucks and this guy's not over and this blah blah
right.
blah. And it's like, well, then why are you dedicating 2 or 3 hours a week to this show? find something else. Like find something else to like. Like, and I understand with wrestling or with franchise properties, it's different. It's like Indiana Jones, we all grew up with, right? And those were solidly made movies. They weren't just popcorn flicks.
Right.
But at the same time, like if you come to the point where you're getting like enraged about something, just recognize that it's no longer yours.
I'm enraged
and move
by
on.
the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I'm enraged.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of those people that that like they're in a shitty relationship, but they don't want to move on because they're comfortable. But all they do,
be divorced. Yeah,
yes, and all they do is talk shit about the person they're with, and it's like, fuck, dude, just divorce, go, just go.
By the way, Chris Matthews points out, just bring up some points here, some people I'm making. Slave Cheeks is asking if comic book movies ran its course. No, I think they just need to, maybe go back to hiring people without, under the guise of maybe they really want to make these movies. Galactic, not Galactic, excuse me, Chris Matthews was talking about Ryan Coogler cares about Black Panther. Wakanda Forever was really good, especially given what they were dealing with. I give Wakanda Forever a mulligan because they were in a lose-lose situation. The star died. There was no way to make up for the fact that Chadwick Boseman tragically at a young age dies of cancer in between the films, like before the film starts. Like there's just no way around that. Like what were they supposed to do?
And that wasn't just good for Black Panther. That he was like pegged almost and naturally because people liked him so much. It was so big.
God, he's great.
I remember people saying he was going to take over for Tony Stark to be the focus of Marvel.
Yeah, he was fantastic. Yeah. He should have been maybe the face of the franchise, and he dies tragically of cancer. So I don't know how, like, I'm never going to be I didn't really like Wakanda Forever that much. I did see it twice because I'd taken two separate kids to see it, but I was very disappointed in it because I thought Namor was a little too much for me. And I just didn't think that it was strong. I just didn't think it was a strong enough movie. It was good looking, but it wasn't a great movie for me compared to the first one, which I'd seen like 3 times. Like, because I loved the character forever and I was excited about the movie. But I also think this hate watch thing, I'm sure it's real to a degree, but I never buy a ticket for a movie going, I know this is going to suck. And I go to the movies quite a bit, Bisho, and I never sit down and shudder and go, well, this is going to be terrible for the next 2 hours of my life. I don't believe that. I think there is this weird thing that happens where people automatically assume if you don't like something, it's for a reason that is, sort of either political or social or possibly prejudicial, instead of just being like, yeah, I didn't like it. I just didn't like it. Like the Marvels, I just didn't like it. I just thought it was a weak movie. I didn't hate it. I just didn't like it. I thought it was weak. I thought it was probably one of the weakest Marvel movies of all time. Now, clearly, that's reflective in the fact that you lost all this money. Now, I don't know that people went and saw it purposely to fucking shit on the movie. If I really hated everything about that, that direction of the MCU and all this other shit, I just wouldn't go see it. But I went and saw the fucking movie. You know what I mean? Just like I went and saw the previous movie. So it's like, I'm well versed in this shit. I'm very well versed in all of the characters, not from the MCU, but from the comic books too. So it's like I have an investment in this as a human being. But yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know. I want to watch this Indiana Jones movie, but I'm a little skeptical. But Bisho, before we head over to Patreon, I think we might want to bring up this Rolling Stone list. I'm a little curious about this Rolling Stone list. They gave their top 20, just to give a little tease of some of the stuff we're doing next week.
Well, I'm pretty sure not many of the movies on this list is going to make our top.
Well, I don't know. I looked at it once and I just thought it was interesting. Now, I don't give a squat of piss about Rolling Stone these days, but I thought it was interesting that now, it's a big publication. I wanted to see what was on their list. The top 20 movies. Now, this is the top 20 overall movies. Now, right off the bat, there's no chance on earth that Oppenheimer is the 20th best movie of 2020. Like, that's what
I'm saying.
It's over. There's not enough bourbon in the world for me to make up for that. The Boy and the Heron, I'm not familiar with the story. I know this is very popular. It didn't even come out yet. It just came out this week.
That's why I don't take these lists seriously. It's like, how can a movie that just came out this week that not many people have seen already be the best movie of 2023?
Because the critics, this is their critics here. Now, Bottoms. I watched 10 minutes of Bottoms. It's on cable currently. Rachel Sennett and the girl from The Bear. I like both of these kids. They seem funny. I didn't laugh once. I heard this is pretty terrible, but it's also one of these movies that critics aren't allowed to say is terrible. So it's like there's no universe where this is better than Oppenheimer. I've heard of You Hurt My Feelings. I saw a trailer for this. I don't know anything about it. I guarantee you it made no money. And it's probably not better than Oppenheimer.
I've not heard anybody, like
Yeah, it's
even
like a
critics.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus, like as an older woman getting a divorce. I don't know. It's one of these movies that probably lost all of its box office. I
Yeah,
saw
and
trailers. I love Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I think she's great, but
and I have friends that like art house movies that no one talks about. I've not heard any of them talk about this. So
yeah. Passages.
Passages.
I've heard of this. Is this let me see. German. Okay. No, it's a German actor. Blue is the warmest color. I've heard of that movie. Young woman meets a nightclub. Okay, never heard of it. Skinamarink. Now this is fascinating to me, B Show, because Rolling Stone is telling you that not only is Skinamarink better than Oppenheimer, it's like 5 movies better than Oppenheimer.
Which
Now,
even if people liked it. Sorry, go
what
ahead.
do you say to that? No, I'm serious. What do you say to that?
This reminds me of the PWI 500. And for those of you who aren't wrestling fans,
It's the PWI 500 of movies.
Yes. It's like the people that nominate the PWI 500, they will list popular or mainstream wrestlers, but then they pick out these obscure people and then they rank them like 6 above like the most popular, the most critically acclaimed.
It's like some fringe Japanese dude that never wrestled in the States, never left Japan is number 3. Like, and a guy on the indies that you've never heard of named Charlie Banana, who only does Northeast Indies, is number 25, but he's better than Seth Rollins or something. Like, I'm just using that as an example, but
no, exactly.
But now again, we will probably talk about Skinamarink next week. I do think it's one of those movies that either people loved or hated. Much like the number 14 movie, Beau is Afraid. Box office bomb, confused and angered some people, yet other people thought it was brilliant. I'm still waiting for this. I have to watch this movie, Bisha. I just have to watch it.
I have a feeling we're both going to be
favorite film of the year.
Yeah, he's been talking about this pretty consistently, but I think you and I are probably going to end up crash coursing movies like the next week or two to talk about stuff for this year.
And by the way, we might watch Beau is Afraid and go, oh my God, maybe one of my favorite movies of the year. But it's possible. I'm not turned off to that idea. But I just, it seemed like a very long, strange film. And I just didn't have the interest there. Return to Seoul. I have not heard of this movie. Who's made this? Let me see if anybody famous is in it. No. Wait, hold on.
Park Jang-min?
No, it's not. It's Park Chan-wook. Yeah, that's the actress. Okay. Maybe it's great. Don't know. I don't know that it's better than Oppenheimer. That's all I'm saying. All of Us Strangers. I've never heard of this. Is this an American film? Never heard of it. Okay.
Looks like it takes place in London, so maybe not.
This Paul Mescal guy, everybody's talking about. He's the new Gladiator, so everybody's talking about him. So that's what that's about.
So, and that's the other thing too, is are these pieces put out to try to like introduce you to who's going to be the next person? You know what I mean? Like, is it AstroTurf? Is it not? I don't know.
I don't know. American Fiction, I've seen trailers for it. This looks amazing. Jeffrey Wright is low-key one of my favorite actors, maybe ever. Jeffrey Wright is brilliant in everything. The guy can play anything and anyone. This is a funny thing. This is it's a weird art house movie that looked great. It's about a struggling writer who is trying to write like really smart books, but all of these like crazy like black themed fiction books about like weird subject matter are dominating the charts. So he writes a fictitious book about a fictitious life that he never had, making him like a gangster or something. Meanwhile, he's like a nerdy, brilliant guy, and he creates a separate persona, and it becomes the most popular selling book. So that's why it's a fun idea. I guarantee
Jada?
It's like Jada. It's Jada Pinkett's book, American Fiction. But I love the people in it. Now, Barbie, again, billion-dollar film, dominated the box office. Probably fun for about, most of the film. I don't see a world where it's probably not on people's top 10, right? I mean, how could it not be?
It's fair. I mean, you can't.
Totally fair.
If a movie makes that much money, whether it's platformed or not, you can't argue that it connected with an insane amount of people. And that's what it's about. So,
absolutely. Yeah. And clearly this did. I mean, my God, this was an institution for the summer at a time when the strike was happening. So I mean, by the way, Barbie opened the week of the strike. So, and it did $1 billion. This I've never heard of. All Dirt Roads Taste of Salt. What is this? This is interesting. childhood, 20-something, growing up in Mississippi Town Circle, the 1970s.
Ooh.
Okay, this looks like an art house movie. Probably good acting.
Mhm.
I like that title quite a bit. The Delinquents. I've heard of this film. I've heard of The Delinquents. I don't think it was playing here, but I've heard of The Delinquents. But this is number 8. Is this Argentina? It's an Argentina writer. What's the premise here, Bisho?
Oh, let's see. His plan is to turn himself.
The Delinquents.
Steals a duffel bag worth of money from his job. Has a friend hold on to it. His plan is to turn himself into a brief prison sentence, retrieve the cash, and live happily.
Oh, okay.
His friend agrees. Eventually, he stashes the loot in the countryside. And then what happens after that turns Argentine writer-director Rodrigo Moreno's debut feature film into something way more thought-provoking.
Okay. All
Sounds
right. That's
interesting.
interesting. Sounds very interesting. Now, this I've heard of. I don't know if you've heard of this. This is
Mm-mm.
supposed to be, this is a French movie, Anatomy of a Fall. I almost went and saw this because everyone was talking about this a few months ago. It's like a thriller about whether or not somebody actually, like, either this person fell or were they murdered.
Oh,
This looks
wow.
very good. This is the kind of movie that I would get behind, no problem. Just haven't seen it. Don't know anyone who's seen it, but I've heard about this film quite a bit. I would definitely want to check this out. And it's French. A colleague describes this as marriage story, but as a thriller. Yeah, it's like you don't know, like I think it's almost even left to in the interpretation, like what actually takes place. So that this is the kind of movie that like critics like. I'm sure it's a good film. So, and I've heard a lot about it. So that I would check out. The Quiet Girl. I've heard of The Quiet Girl also. I don't know anyone who saw this movie either.
No.
I've heard of this movie. Who's that? Colin Blairfield's. Oh, let me see. It's an Irish movie, huh? I swept Irish versions of the Oscar last year. Oh boy, I bet you this is one of those fucked up movies, huh? What is this?
Yeah. Probably something tragic.
Parents are neglectful at best and borderline abusive at worst. It takes a while for this last to open up to new guardians. Her caretakers have a tragedy in their past as well. There's a sense that the three of them need each other. This looks like one of those bummer Irish movies. Yeah, I'll check that out. I'm a bummer Irish guy.
Aren't we both?
showing up. I've heard of Showing Up. So a lot of these are art house movies, dude.
Which that's fair. If they're going to go through a list of movies and list a bunch of art house ones that no one's watching because they are legitimately good, great. But don't rank Skinamarink 5 above Oppenheimer. You know what I mean?
Michelle Williams is a Portland-based sculptor. I love Michelle Williams. Great actress. Desperately trying to finish some final pieces on upcoming gallery exhibit. Everything. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Poor Things. This looks like a great movie. I'm definitely going to try to check this out for the end of the year. This is Yorgos Lanthimos' take on the Prometheus myth. Emma Stone, everyone's saying, is a lock to get nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress for this. This looks like one of those movies that everybody talks about at the Academy Award season. It's got fantastic reviews. It's a dark comedy. And I like this director. This director's not everybody's cup of tea. Me and Shah, big fans of the director. Makes fucked up movies. Willem Dafoe looks really crazy in this as a mad scientist who makes Emma Stone into like a person. And she starts fucking Mark Ruffalo and all this other shit. It just looks like one of those crazy, weird, artsy films that critics like. And of course, Killers of the Flower Moon. Yeah. The word masterpiece. That's what I called it. Wow, B-Show. That's what I said. I said it's a masterpiece. We'll be talking about this movie next week more. But clearly, B-Show, no surprise, this is going to be on the final list of everything for the best of the best.
I'm surprised this didn't make number 1 because not only did it have a mainstream release, but people have already been talking about how even though it kind of bombed at the box office, it's probably going to win a shitload of awards. So, I mean, I'm glad it ranked number 3. I'm stuck on
I mean, that's
Skinamarink,
probably, I couldn't accept it being anything less than that. Oh, and shout out to Terrell T. He's in there. He's saying Oppenheimer's so good it made boring math talk intriguing. And then Joe Punches is saying, I need to see Poor Things. It looks so good, and Defoe is said to be amazeballs. Yeah, maybe an Academy Award nom for Defoe for that. But just expect everyone in Killers of the Flower Moon and it for being nominated for every award under the sun.
Yeah.
But what's number 2? The Zone of Interest. I think I have heard of this. Yes, we watched this trailer. We watched this trailer. Wow. Okay. This is about the town that lives next door to the fucking concentration camp.
Yes.
Holy shit, dude. Yeah, I'd like to see this. We watched this trailer. We were like, ooh, this looks weird. Remember, it's like a big family lives in a mansion, and you don't really know what's going on, and then you see the smoke billowing from the concentration
Yeah.
camp nearby. Holy shit! Wow, huh?
I wonder where that's playing because I need to see that.
Yeah, well, when Oscar season really kicks in, these things will come back. But we watched the trailer. We were all intrigued by it. And this movie, number one, I've heard about this forever, Past Lives. I've seen the trailer. It looks okay. I can't believe it must be really good because it's on everybody's list of some of the best movies. This is like a relationship movie. I think it takes place in New York, about a girl who it's like a relationship movie. I'm trying to remember. I saw this trailer a long time ago.
It said
Uh,
basically her and some other person like promise, like they're in love and they promise to visit each other, and then one gets married and then they get
yeah,
back together. Yeah.
it's one of these like very artsy, heartfelt type films. This is on everybody's list. You're going to hear about this Past Lives B show for the next couple of months. It's probably good. I would check it out. Uh, Again, Oppenheimer at 20 is a problem for me. I just Oppenheimer is one of the 2 or 3 best movies of the year. It's probably the best overall film of the year, better than, maybe Killers of the Flower Moon. It beats out a little bit more only because it's a lot more, there's a lot more parts. There's a lot more moving parts to it. It's going to be very tough. Those 2 films, I implore everybody to see them because they're so different, but they have the same sort of like, you don't know which one is better. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's tough.
That's what I'm saying. It's one of those years where there's, people said things fell off for horror, but I think there's just so much stuff that came out. Depending on your sensibilities, it's going to be a
Right.
completely different list. Yeah.
And Skinamarink being on there is fascinating to me. Do you think that's more about the idea and less about the execution? Because it is such a remarkably interesting idea.
Yes, the fact that someone took analog horror and shot something like that that both had some
10 grand, right?
very like or maybe even less. I mean, it
I
was
think
pretty
it's less
low.
than $10,000.
Yeah.
Jesus fucking
But like
Christ.
they did a few things, like they went to certain places, like they show fucked up shit happening to kids, and
Yeah.
there's like an undercurrent of potentially domestic abuse.
Oh yeah.
Is it a demon or is it abuse? And that's what the kid is visualizing. Like they did try some cool stuff with it. It just drug on so much,
Yeah, I
and it was
thought,
so
yeah. And it wasn't
static.
really that long. It just felt way too long. Like it felt like
Yeah,
this could have been a short film. Which it was, wasn't it? It was a short film initially.
I think so. Or a concept that was turned into a longer one. And
Okay.
honestly, I think it was only like a
Crowdfunded
90-minute
maybe.
movie or something, but it could have
Yeah,
been
it's
like
not a long movie,
45.
but it felt entirely long.
Mhm.
It felt like Killers of the Flower Moon long. You know? Yeah,
Although I remember I made the joke on YouTube that um, a blurb comes up, a title on the screen that says like 3 months later.
mm,
And I said, well, yeah, no shit. I think that's how long I've been watching this movie because
yeah.
it seemed like that
Well,
fucking
don't be
long.
surprised, B Show, when all the horror lists drop that's not up there. I mean, it's going to be up there.
Yeah.
Joe Punches When Evil Lurks. I got to be honest with you. I'm surprised it's not on there. I'm very surprised. I don't know that they would have put that and Skinamarink up there. I mean, they have 16 art house movies that made no money on there. So it's just like, like they could have probably thrown When Evil Lurks in there. Would it be funny if like When Evil Lurks was like number 16, and then I'm still thinking, dude, Oppenheimer 20, really? Like, really? The movie that's going to sweep the Oscars and the Critics' Choice Awards and the Golden Globes, but Skinamarink is better than
The
Oppenheimer.
Marvels, number 7. Yeah.
Yeah, the Marvels is number 7. She-Hulk TV show, honorable mention. But listen, we have a bunch of stuff we're going to head over to Patreon. I don't know if Shah's going to be there. Now, again, people, we want to remind you, next week is the big one. All the best of lists we're going to be dropping for ourselves next week when it comes to the films. All 3 of us will have our individual awards that we'll be giving out to our top 5. We implore you to have that ready next week. Come and join us on the list. And of course, B-Show, this week, you're going to be giving the Patreons their special episode this week. Is that right?
Yes. Sometime this week between now and probably Wednesday, Thursday of next week at some point.
Okay.
My schedule's lighter, should be this week, so I should be able to kick something out for you pretty quick. So look
Yeah,
out
and
for
then
that.
we'll have a special episode we'll release for you guys over the holiday weekend in a couple of weeks as well for Patreon.
Mhm.
But right now we want to get to the plugs. Let's plug Deathmatch Outlaws and, of course, the Drew Yarsifer Experience, because that Classics 86 on YouTube, the Down Under Thundercast, Don Tony, And of course, our good friends over at Necromaniacs Podcast and the Inhuman Experience Podcast. Ringside is Wrestling on YouTube. Those guys are back. We got Mojo and Dirk's Most Dastardly Show, The Garden of Doom, and of course, the Old Guy Metalcast, FunkBetty.com. Go support our good friend Mr. Anderson around the holidays and buy some clothes from FunkBetty.com. Do it now. Just do it right now. MJW Games, Cherry Jesus on YouTube, and his band's album Kaiser. That's available currently. The Red River Podcast. That's Sam and his band Playing Dead. He's putting out the hits and putting out videos left and right. Please check out his band. Bio Geeks, of course, the Fate 316. High Marks Podcast. Midnight Mass Creature Cast, a weekly detour with Anthony Allison and Teddy. And we got the Guns and Geeks podcast. And of course, please subscribe to Planet Mondo's channel for Shaheen. B-Show, you got anything separate happening on the B-Show Brian channel?
No, I might trim some stuff down and make shorts out of stuff I've done before. So there might be some stuff going up there, but probably not till after the first of the year.
Okay.
But yeah,
and of course,
bshowbrian.com and
make sure you subscribe to the bshowbrian.com.
Exactly.
Channel. And of course, guys, please hit that subscribe button and spread the word. Let some friends know, especially next week. You know, it's going to be a great episode next week. We hope you had a good time with us tonight. Shah will be back next week, possibly on the Patreon later on tonight. And we hope you guys have a great weekend. And we'll see you next week on Spitball Media Podcast.